All right, good morning. All right, so today I thought we would revisit or focus on the transverse abdominis. We haven't done that in a while. And earlier this week, I have never been so sore with my transverse abdominis. It's like I have never actually used it in this way before. Excuse me. Oh. Oh. And and yeah, so I have never been so sore before, and I know that I have never used the TA the TA like that before. It's like, oh, is that what you mean by turning on your core? Okay, that's new. So I experienced some new, or actually, well, similar but kind of new some new ways of trying to activating the TA that I would love to share with you guys today to maybe help you find a new way of activating your transverse abdominis. So that's the theme for today. Okay. And then also what's interesting is the transverse abdominis is here as well as the rectus abdominis, right? Your six pack, your ab muscles lay on top of your transverse abdominis. Your transverse abdominis is underneath it all. And it takes a lot of thought and concentration and practice to be able to not use your rectus abdominis and use and engage your transverse abdominis, or relax your rectus abdominis and engage your transverse abdominis, because it's one layer on top of the other. So in very specific movements, to isolate just your TA. So I thought that was really interesting. So I'll see if I can remember some of the things that, like, there's specific poses that puts you into where it forces you to not use your RA and then use your transverse abdominis. And that allows, right, you don't have the bigger muscle, because if you just do using both, then the TA kind of gets, it's like both of them go to the gym, and every time they do an exercise, the RA is always helping them, right? So it's like if you were lifting weights, right, but you always have someone helping you, or if you're in that, like, that pull-up bar, that chin-up bar, where you can put your feet on like the weights to help you, it's always like you'll always have an assist. So that means you can't strengthen it as fast, but because you've always got a friend to help you. So I thought that was kind of interesting way of finding it, because the next 2 days, like every time I coughed, I'm like, oh, that is a new sensation of sore. So hopefully we can find some of that today. We'll need a block. I have my strap with me. I don't know if we're going to use the strap today. We shall see. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. I turned my heater on. I haven't turned my heater on like all this season, so I think it's like caused by allergies or something. It's like my nose is not liking the heater. It comes with like that first time you turn it on. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and start on our back and just begin to wake up. It's such a nice sunny morning. The blue sky is blue. I'll just go ahead and start rocking back and forth onto our low back. We're going to hug our right knee into the chest, extend the left leg out long, taking reclined tree, and just kind of opening up, dropping it right knee out to the side, giving yourself a nice big stretch. Oh, I'm like ready for it. And then take the right knee across your body, take the right arm out to the side, open it up. Come back to the center. Just switching sides, hug the left knee into the chest, extend the right leg out long. Across your body. Open the left arm out to the side. And hug your knees into the chest. Oh, take reclined tree. So we take reclined tree on the side, extending the left leg out, dropping the left knee out to the side. I've noticed that my tree is a lot like, you know, like more open on the bent knee side. So something must be working. Okay. So typically we do, we borrow from a Pilates exercise called toe taps to find our TA. And so I think we should start there. We should start an anchor on something that we're familiar with, and find our core. All right, so go ahead and take your knees to tabletop. Actually, I take it back. Plant your feet on the ground. And I just realized our body needs to be a little bit warmer to do this. So from here, plant the soles of the feet onto the ground. We're going to arch our back. So really lift, have a lot of space underneath your low back. Tip the pelvic bowl forward, anterior pelvic tilt. And then go the other way. So posterior pelvic tilt, smash the low back into the mat. Now, in Pilates, we want to get all the other like muscles like not engaged, right? So right now you're probably using your leg muscles, your glute muscles, a lot of other muscles. And can you try, in Pilates, this is called, I think, rocking, to only use like to release and not engage your cores, your glutes, and just really find the transverse abdominis. And this is actually, I remember when I started, it was fairly difficult because I'm like, you want me to isolate this layer and not use, you know, what we normally use, which is the rectus abdominis, right? So especially in this action, when we're smashing our low back into the mat, our glutes want to get involved. Other muscles want to get involved, our leg muscles want to get involved. And then, take your knees to tabletop. Okay. So your knees are in tabletop. Your low back is pressed into the mat. We're going to keep the 90-degree bend, and we're going to lower our right knee down, or right toe down, sorry, and keep the 90 degrees. And this, you should feel this on your left side of your core and your left oblique. You toe tap, touch the toe down, and bring it back up. And lower the left toe down, but keeping your low back pressed to the mat. So definitely a posterior pelvic tilt, and float back up. And you should be feeling this in your core, right? Because if it's too easy, like a lot of people do this, and like, no, this is leg muscle, right? This is lowering down you're hinging at the hip, and you're engaging your core, and you're smashing your low back to the mat. And you bring it back up, and this should feel, you know, not trivial. So your left toe taps down, then you bring it back up, and then you tap your right toe down, and you should be smashing your low back into the mat, and it should be getting kind of hard right around here, and the left toe touches down, and the left toe reaches back up, and release. All right, so you could definitely feel that there is definitely some core engagement going on. You're really hitting that posterior pelvic tilt. You're stabilizing with your core, with your core muscle, your transverse abdominis, your core muscle. Really, your core is 4 muscles, but today we want to really focus on the transverse abdominis. Okay, so let's continue. Knees at 90 degrees. Press the low back into the mat by using your transverse abdominis, posterior pelvic tilt. There's no space underneath your back. We're going to change it up. We're going to go right, left, so right side down, left side up, right side up. Yeah, so it's right down, left up, right up. Yeah, so it's still at that 90 degrees underneath the knees. You're going to hinge at the hips. You're going to slow. The name of the game is slow. The slower that you go, the harder that is. I'm going to slowly lower my right toe down. I'm going to hover it like an inch off the ground. And then I'm going to bring my left toe down. This gets interesting. Starting to shake. Hover it. Continue to bring the left back up. And then slowly. The slower that you go, the harder that it is. The right toe up. Now we're going to go left, down, right, up, left, up. So we're going to start with the left side. We're going to go slow. Press the low back in the mat. Posterior pelvic tilt. Keep smashing your low back into the mat. Tap the toe down. Lift it. Hover an inch. And then bring the right toe down. tap, hover, and then slowly bring the right up, slow as you go. And left side comes up. Now let's go to right side. Right down, left up, right up. So keep your low back smash to the mat, right down. Hover an inch, left down, left up, right up. So I also, and release. I also notice that when I get better at isolating my transverse abdomen, my TA, I almost feel like the TA, or this is underneath the RA, and the TA is sliding. It's like a sliding door underneath. Versus when I'm using both muscles, I can feel them like shorten and lengthen, but it's almost like this very interesting sensation where the bottom one slides and moves and contracts without the top one doing anything, or at least hanging out and being relaxed. Okay, so adding on, we're gonna go and do a knees at tabletop here, low back pressing into the mat. We're gonna straighten our legs up to about 80%. And we're going to keep the toes and the shin bone at this height, at the same height. So if I straighten my legs, my toes would go up. So it's going to feel like your toes are going downstairs, but you want to keep your toes at the same height away from the ground. So we keep our low back pressed into the mat, and we're going to keep our and this is, we're going to slowly extend our legs forward, and we want to keep our low back pressed into the mat. And only extend it so that you can keep your low back pressed in the mat. So it's probably going to be around 80%. And you're going to slowly draw it back. It's going to feel like your legs are going down, but they're not. To keep them at the same height. So 90 degrees, low back press into the mat. And you're going to extend your legs forward. It's going to feel like you're going downstairs, and you pull it back slowly, keeping your low back pressed to the mat. And you should feel this in your transverse abdominis. You should definitely feel this. So keep pulling the transverse abdominis into your spine. I know people talk about that all the time, and it took me, I don't know, at least 15 years before I'm like, oh, is that what you mean? Like, oh, that's definitely a new sensation. Like, oh, you mean really pull into your spine? I'm like, okay, why didn't you just say so? And bring it back, last one. Okay. Okie dokie. If that wasn't enough, we're gonna take a block in case your TA is, it's warm, it's working, we know where it is, it's working hard, but let's add on. So put a block underneath your SI joint or your tailbone, and this next action that we're going to do is really going to force you to not use your rectus abdominis, because we're asking the RA to lengthen, the rectus abdominis to lengthen while we engage our transverse abdominis. So it's putting our body in a position where you have to like release your RA. So our hips are elevated, so that gives us a little, that extra elevation. We're going to take our legs straight up towards the sky. We're going to slowly lower them to touch the ground and then hover an inch off the ground. But the hip flexor should feel like it is pushing down. Like, so as you lower your feet, so first let's get to like lowering. So you're in a posterior pelvic tilt. You're in a posterior pelvic tilt. You're in a posterior pelvic tilt. And you are going to hover the feet an inch off the ground. Yeah, an inch off the ground. You're going to press your feet, your heels down into an imaginary spring. So that's going to force you to open your hip flexors, like it's a lengthening, right? So imagine your heels are pressing into a spring on the ground, right? At the same time, your posterior pelvic tilt, which is your TA, you're pressing your heels down into a spring, which is lengthening your RA. And so this is going to force you to use a TA with no big brother help. with no RA help. You're going to hold for 3 and 2 and 1 and release. So you should feel, I feel more intensity in my transverse abdominis than in the exercises before. In the exercises before, I definitely felt them, right? But this is like, oh, you mean to use the TA? Okay, we'll try that again. Okay. So there's something about the elevation of the hips and allowing you to go past that, right? That allows you to lengthen the hip flexor muscle, which requires lengthening of the rectus abdominis and a contraction of the transverse abdominis. So legs up towards the sky, feet together, posterior pelvic tilt and a slow lower. And what I feel right now is my transverse abdominis sliding underneath that RA. And slowly lower. So you're lowering it past the height of the blocks, but hovering above the ground. You're in a posterior pelvic tilt, but you're pressing down with your heels on an imaginary spring. And that's the action that gets us to focus only on the TA, because your RA cannot work. Your TA is like, oh, I'm on my own now. I'm on my own. So it's low TA, low belly right here. And oh, I feel it working. I feel this working, and slowly bring it back up, posterior pelvic tilt. Pretty intense. I don't know about you, but I'm like, okay, I found it. So now we can work on engaging that throughout all of class. So last thing that we're going to do is we're going to do the tabletop, right? So knees at 90 degrees, hips are obviously slightly larger than 90 degrees, but the knees at 90 degrees, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to drill, and keeping the knees together, we're going to lower both toes down. And we're going to lower them down and hover at about an inch off the mat. Yeah. So we're engaged, we're posterior pelvic tilt. So automatically my RA contracts too as well, posterior pelvic tilt. But the lowering of the feet action means you can't contract the rectus abdominis. I'm going to slowly lower my feet, my toes, and hover them an inch, posterior pelvic tilt, and just hold here. So I can really feel my low TA, which is hard to engage on its own. I really feel my low TA engage. And slowly bring it back up. We'll do that one more time. So go slow, go slow. Can you continue to engage your low TA without your RA involved? And so we'll try one more time. We'll lower down. I know we're spending a lot of time on finding our TA, but we want to find our TA engagement contraction through all of class, through every pose, through every vinyasa, every chaturanga, every down dog, every single pose. It should always be engaged. Not like, oh, if your down dog is engaged and then up dog you're not. No, always engaged. Okay. And release. I know we spent a lot of time finding it. I don't know about you, but my low back, so taking the block off the underneath me and just lying down, I feel like my low back, like normally there's like a little space underneath, and now I'm just like lying, relaxing, no space underneath at all. Like I got like, I don't know, like I got an upgrade with my TA. All right, coming rocking up to seated, and let's get started with our flow with the awareness, that our transverse is always on in all of our poses, and see if we can find that. All right, coming into all fours. Ugh. Coming into all fours, tap the toes, lift the hips, downward facing dog. Oh. Even in down dog, in all of our poses, in down dog, anterior pelvic tilt, can you engage the low TA like we had just been doing, like much more intensely? Meaning you're releasing the RA and you're engaging the TA. Inhaling, right leg comes up towards the sky, swing away, forward runner's lunge. We'll look up and they make it, and here it's really easy to just like let the belly almost like let it release, but we're still engaged in the low TA. Back foot to the top of the mat, forward fold. Anterior pelvic tilt, can you find your TA engagement? Your TA engagement is actually going to help you deepen your forward fold. Inhaling all the way back up, floating arms up towards the sky, and close the pose. Inhale. Exhale, forward fold. Is that the dog? Come here, Wally. Come here, boo-boo. So my forward folds have gotten way deeper this week just from all this work in the TA. Inhaling halfway up, exhale, plant the hands, step back, high plank, lower down. Inhale, cobra, TA still engaged. I know posterior pelvic tilt in cobra, TA still engaged. And what I notice is I can come up higher in my cobra, tuck the toes, lift the hips, downward facing dog. Inhaling, left leg comes up towards the sky. Left foot in between the hands, runner's lunge. TA still engaged here. Back foot to the top of the mat, forward fold. Inhaling all the way back up, floating arms up towards the sky. And close the pose. Inhale. Exhale, swan dive it forward. Inhaling halfway up. This is an anterior pelvic tilt. Plant the hands down, step the right foot back, drop the right knee down. Inhale, forward, up and back. TA still engaged. Posterior pelvic tilt. Exhale, open. Posterior pelvic tilt plus TA engagement gets you further back. Inhale. Windmill the hands down, step it back, high plank. Lower down. Inhaling. Cobra, posterior pelvic tilt. Tuck the toes, lift hips, downward facing dog. Inhaling, right leg comes up towards the sky. Right foot in between the hands, runner's lunge. Drop the back knee down. Inhale, forward, up and back. So I'm thinking about posterior pelvic tilt, TA engagement as I go back in a back bend, which is, there's a lot going on here. So posterior pelvic tilt plus TA engagement. Inhale, neutralize through the spine, windmill the hands down. The TA is still engaged here, so we're not releasing that. It's very easy to just release that. Pop the back knee off the mat, runner's lunge, TA engagement here. So what does that feel like? Back foot to the top of the mat, forward fold. When you forward fold deeper, TA engagement. Actually, the TA should be on the whole time. The whole time. And we're going to talk also about really feeling like we're pulling our femur bone into the hip. But more on that later. Inhale all the way back up, floating arms up towards the sky and close the pose. Inhale. So even in my inhale, I'm thinking about lifting and pulling engaging my TA is on the whole time. Like it never releases. Whole time. So I'm really focusing on how do I keep that engagement in between the transitions. Inhaling halfway up. Do you want out, Wally? Go on, boo-boo. Go on. Left foot back. Drop the back knee down. My TA is engaged the whole time in this transition. So from here, posterior pelvic tilt, TA pulls back. Low TA, back bend, right? Back bend. It's a completely different sensation, right? Instead of just throwing your weight back, it's posterior pelvic tilt. Windmill the hands down, step it back, high plank. Lower down. Knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga. Inhaling up dog, posterior pelvic tilt, TA engagement. So this is a very different, if you can really think about it, posterior pelvic tilt. The TA is on. Tuck the toes, lift the hips. The TA is on. Anterior pelvic tilt here. So when you're going back and forth between anterior and posterior, TA is always on. So can you keep it on, right? Does it not like, it doesn't go like on, off, on, off. can you find a way for it to stay on? Right, so this is essentially a forward fold, right? It's a forward fold. Anterior pelvic tilt, pull the TA. Gets you deeper into your down dog. Inhaling, left leg comes up towards the sky, swing it way forward, runner's lunge, drop the back knee down. Anterior, posterior pelvic tilt, TA pulls back, back bend. Right, so we're lengthening through the hip flexor, so this forces us to not use the RA. Posterior pelvic tilt and TA pull back. Windmill the hands down, pop the back knee off the mat, your TA is still on. Back foot to the top of the mat, forward fold. Anterior pelvic tilt, TA still on. So I feel like I got more centimeters deeper into my forward fold instantly this week, just by focusing on the TA engagement. Inhaling all the way back up, floating arms up towards the sky, and close the pose. Inhale. Exhale, swan dive it forward. Inhaling halfway up, exhale. So we're gonna go through the whole like sequence, but can you keep your TA on the whole time? Take the right foot back, drop the right knee down, posterior pelvic tilt. Exhale, open. Inhale, but keeping that TA on the whole time. Through all your transitions, high plank, lower down, inhaling up dog. It's your low TA. Down dog, anterior pelvic tilt. Inhaling, right leg comes up towards the sky, swing it way forward, runner's lunge. Drop the back knee down. Inhaling forward, up and back. Opening up the chest. Inhale, windmill the hands down. Pop the back knee off the mat. Back foot to the top of the mat, forward fold. Inhale. And close the pose, inhale. Exhale, swan dive it forward, anterior pelvic tilt. It's a lot of brain cells, it's a lot of concentration. Inhaling halfway up, exhale, plant the hand, step the left foot back, drop the back knee down. Inhale, forward, up and back. Exhale, open. Inhale. Windmill the hands down, step it back, high plank, lower down. Inhaling up dog. Posterior pelvic tilt. Tuck the toes, lift the hips, downward facing dog. Anterior pelvic tilt, pull, engaging through the TA. Inhaling, left leg comes up towards the sky, swing away, forward runner's lunge, drop the back knee down, inhale. Exhale, open. Inhale. Windmill the hands down. Pop the back knee off the mat, back foot to the top of the mat, forward fold. Inhaling all the way back up. And close the pose. Keeping this low TA engaged, right? Just standing and keeping the low TA. So between the belly button and the pubic bone, so that's your low TA area. Inhaling. Exhale, swan dive it forward. Just even in the forward fold, can you keep that engaged in an anterior pelvic tilt? Fold deeper, plant the hands down, step it back, high plank. In your high plank, can you pull that low TA? It's easier to pull the higher TA, harder to pull the low TA down, or to pull the low TA into your spine. Lower down, inhaling up dog. Tuck the toes, lift the hips, downward facing dog. Inhaling, right leg comes up towards the sky, swing it way forward, runner's lunge. Come on up, crescent lunge. So can you Keep engaging through the low TA here. So go deeper in your crescent lunge. Posterior pelvic tilt. Posterior pelvic tilt. You're going to shift the weight forward. You're going to fly into warrior three, keeping your low TA pulled in. Notice how that stabilizes your transition. You're going to hug your left knee in to your chest, and you're still flat back, flying into a warrior three, modified with the left knee tucked into your chest. You're squeezing, anterior pelvic tilt, pulling in the low TA. Inhale, slowly coming up. Left hand on the left shin, toss the right arm back, TA still engaged. But you're lengthening through your hip flexor and you're pulling back. Extend the left leg forward. Pull your left femur bone back into your hip. That is your low TA. So we're in a pike. We're in a one-legged pike. So that's where to do pike is all about low TA and pulling. So to hold something like mid-air pike, that's all low TA. That's your low TA strength. And send it back into warrior three. Keep your low TA on the whole time through your transition. Windmill the hands down to a standing split. Hug your left knee into the chest. You're going to kick your left foot out, forward, and come down and have a seat. Into boat. Oh, I just released. So we're going to go into boat pose. We're going to go into boat pose, I think. Which leg? Which leg? Okay, left leg. Left leg. So we're going to go into asymmetrical boat. Asymmetrical boat. So, left leg lifted higher than the right in asymmetrical boat. Pulling the left femur bone into our hip socket for 4, 3, 2, 1, to come down and keep asymmetrical boat. Ideally, you would not let your legs move. It would stay in place. That's the goal. Transverse abdominis, slowly coming up to high boat, asymmetrical high boat, asymmetrical low boat, asymmetrical high boat, and come on down, or come and see, lower the legs down. And come into all fours. Whew. Come into all fours. Okay, find your TA engagement. Find your low TA engagement. Hover the knees an inch off the mat. Hover the knees an inch off the mat. Then I want to do opposite hand and knee lift with the other knee hovering an inch off the mat. So extend the right leg back, left arm forward, hover the left knee, use your core. 3, 2, and 1. Come back to that knee hover. Other side, extend the left leg, right arm. For 3, 2, 1, come back. Tuck the toes and lift the hips, downward facing dog. Okay, I'm sweating and I can't tell if it's because of the heater that's on or this is just hard. But I did get to do yoga Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday this week. I skipped Friday. I forget what I was doing. What was I doing? I don't remember. Oh yeah, I was taking care of the little guy. So that's 4 times this week. So that's really good. I feel really good about that. I was able to get 4 times of yoga this week because that's definitely more than in the past like 2 months. So trying to get back into the routine. Of course, going to Hawaii is gonna throw that off a bit. Okay, where were we? Left leg comes up towards the sky, but when you lift your leg, everything is always your TA is on. So how do you get your TA on? It's like a new puzzle because every transition, every move, your TA is on. Come on up. Crescent lunge.
So it's like almost like every pose is new again. For me, every pose is new again because I got to figure out how do I engage the low TA and not let it bail in between all the transitions. The transitions are the hardest part. The transitions are the hardest part. That's where the work actually needs to be done. Warrior 3. That is where the work needs to be done, is in the transitions. Flying out into Warrior 3. TA is on, tuck the right knee into the chest and hold this. For 4, TA, 3, 2, 1, come on up. Toss the left arm over, back behind you in a back bend. Put your TAs on. And I just have to kind of readjust how I engage my core. I have no idea how we got from where to go. Here we go. We went back to standing split. Back to standing split. And then bend the left knee, extend the right leg forward, come down for one-legged squat, and come and have a seat into asymmetrical boat, high boat. Asymmetrical high boat, right leg higher than the left. Anterior pelvic tilt, lifting the chest up. Slowly come down to low boat, asymmetrical low boat. So left leg is hovering. Find your TA. Inhale up. Inhale down. Inhale up. And come down to all fours. Whew. And we're going to hover the knees and we're going to do alternate arms and legs. Okay. Hover the knees an inch off the mat. TA. Find your core. Find your core. So neutral through the spine. TA is pulling in. Now extend the right leg back. Left arm for 4, 3, 2, and 1. Come back, extend the left leg and the right arm. Hover the inch for 4, 3. Stabilize with your core. 2, and 1. And then down dog. And lower the knees down and sit it back, child's pose. All right, come on up and have a seat. If you have try to find something that's slidey, like a towel or sock or something for your feet, for your heels. So I want to have a seat and seated in Dandasana. In Dandasana. Okay, so you want to find a place we're seated in Dandasana. Okay, and we are going to lift and pull our hips back. Now we're going to lift and pull our hips back. Hi, Uday. I'm so glad that you could join us today. So good to have you. We are on the road to using our TA, our transverse abdominis, our low transverse abdominis. Okay, so you can do this with blocks or not. You kind of want to just feel where you are. I mean, the goal is that we're going to use, it's this pulling action of pulling our femur bone into the hip, right? Our femur bone like smashing into the hip socket. If you do it without the blocks, that's okay too. But you're using your TA. Yeah, you're using your TA, and it's very easy to use your ab muscles too, your rectus abdominis. So anterior pelvic tilt, we lift and we pull. Oh, definitely, yeah, no, use your blocks. Like this is not working. And my feet are flexed and my heels are on a slidey surface, right? And like the complete, sequence would be you would pull yourself to a forward fold. But yeah, maybe talk to me in a decade, right? So you're lifting and your anterior pelvic tilt and you're using your TA to pull your femur bone So you're gonna feel like that in your core, you know, that. So you want to be careful that you're not using your rectus abdominis or your higher. Like a lot of times it's really easy to use these muscles up here above the belly button, but you really want to try to get real low in your low belly, right? Low belly is TA. Low belly is your low TA. So lift and pull. And try to use your low TA. Your upper ab muscles want to kick in. You want to use your low TA. So you slide out and you just slide it and slide out and slide in and you keep going. We spent a lot of time already finding your low TA so you know where those muscles are. So maybe you can get those to help you more. So do like 4 more. Why does everyone want to keep? Okay. 2 more. Oh, oh, I'm sweating. And 1. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Let's start to flow. Come back into all fours, tuck the toes, lift the hips. TA's engaged. Downward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Oh, I know what we forgot. We forgot hand to foot pose on the other side. Okay, inhaling, right leg comes up towards the sky. TA still engaged. Right foot in between the hands, runner's lunge. Drop the back heel down. Warrior 2, TA still engaged. Oh. Warrior 2, your TA still engaged, so the low belly. Focus on the low belly, low belly, low belly, low belly. Right thigh bone is externally rotated. I can tell it's a little tight because we haven't worked on it today, right? Like I can't get my right knee to press back as far because we've been focused on the low TA so much today, but we need it. We're gonna come down to a side plank on the left side. So left side, we're gonna go side plank. We're gonna take the right foot, right hand, right foot into the hand. We're gonna find that pulling of the hip bone into the hip socket. It's a different sensation in your side plank. Release, we're gonna take waterfall. Step it behind you, hips up to the sky. Open up to the hip flexors. I'm gonna flip it into one-legged dog. We're gonna pull, same thing, we're gonna pull that right hip, that right femur bone into the right hip to really get that TA engagement. And lower down. Deeper down dog. So can you get deeper into your down dog because you have your active transverse abdominis. Inhaling, left leg comes up towards the sky, swing it way forward, runner's lunge, drop the back heel down. Warrior two. Left leg externally rotates. Now it's going to feel tighter than when we normally work a lot on our hips. So really get like longer stance, Uday. You're super taller than I am. So get that longer stance so you can go wide. Find your TA. Today is all about the TA, the low TA. Can you pull it back into your spine and lift? You feel lighter, right? Lighter. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Windmill the right hand down. So we're going to do side plank on the right side. Right hand down, outside edge of the right foot. You're going to take the left hand to the left foot and kick it out and pull the left femur bone into the hip using your TA. And then drop it back to waterfall, hips up high to the sky. Can you still keep your TA engaged here? You're in a posterior pelvic tilt, your TA is engaged. You're going to keep it engaged as you flip it to one-legged down dog. You might like left the contraction and then you have to go find it again. But then over time, you'll be able to maintain that contraction the whole time and then lower the legs down. And then lower the knees down, sit back child's pose. We're going to find pike in the wall. Okay, so we're going to find L stand. We're going to find L stand. We are going to find L stand on the wall. So, and L stand is hard, right? Because first it's like shoulder strength. And then L stand, when you look at people's hips, they actually surpass, right? Like, so L stand, a lot of people are here, but like, if you look at true L stand for balance, the hips surpass, right? And think about what has to happen. I can't do this yet. Think about what has to happen in order for the hips to surpass, right? This is the feet and this is my hands, my head are down here and the hips are here. It has to surpass the head. That action is because of your hips, right? Your hips have to be able to be in that anterior pelvic tilt and really go past your head, right? That's how you get the L stand balance. And so the L stand balance, yeah, when you first start out, it's usually shoulder strength, but then the remainder part is activating your hips or activating your core, right? Because if your transverse is pulling back, so anyway, we'll do L stand. So find your wall, have a seat, extend the legs out. Measure, plant the hands where your heels are. You know, if you get fatigued, then you can always do the squat and then kind of release, right? But your feet are at hip height when it's perpendicular. And you're trying to press your shoulder blades through and pull your hips forward, right? And then if you take one leg up, well, let's just do the L stand. L stand with both legs in. So we're going to pull our transverse super hard. We're going to pull our hip bones, our thigh bones into our hip socket. So L stand. Okay, so hold L stand. It'll get tiring. So hold L stand. Yeah, so let's try. So straight. Yeah, that's it, Anjali. That looks really good. Your hips are like getting past your, yeah, that looks really good. Really good. Your feet are at a good height. Anterior pelvic tilt. Yes. Yes, and yeah, nice. You feel, I can see the difference.
Charlie, when you get a chance, walk your hands closer to the wall.
I know it's like, wait, what? Okay, so come on down. And so to practice on like getting that L stand float, which is like for me, I probably years away, but to practice that L stand hold, the training wheel exercise for that is when you're at L stand against the wall. Like when I first started doing this, like as soon as my feet came down, it was like a kerplunk. Like it just like slammed into the wall. It slammed into the ground. Can we get to like a quarter second float and your feet to slow the acceleration of your feet landing down? That's where I'm at right now. Right. Whereas before my feet would, right, when I'm coming out of L stand, like it doesn't feel as like, I'm gonna die, doing L stand. I can like manage to hold it more than like 5 seconds, right? That's step one. And then I'm using my core and floating down. And then over time, can I slow my float down? So I'm not like, I'm not pounding. Before I would just pound loudly into the ground. And now I'm like, okay, I can slow it down like a tad bit and float and land like a ballerina elephant on the ground. And then over time, can you slow it down so you're like, look like you're slowing down time falling, right? That is all TA pulling back into the hips. So play around with that, try that. You can also, this is like, it provides you the discipline because you can't cheat. You cannot cheat with the 2 feet. Absolutely not. You cannot cheat with the 2 feet. So I think that's probably the slowest I've ever gotten it to float. So usually when I'm with you guys, that's when I like make a step forward. So that's probably the slowest I've ever able to float down. When you're done with like kind of playing with that, then you take one leg up. So one-legged L stand. Now what happens with one-legged L stand is there's a lot of cheating that can go on, right? Because you can cheat and not use your core to pull your hips back. You can cheat and use the weight of that free leg to get you away, right? Like, so if I'm cheating with one-legged L stand, I can throw my leg up and I can just back bend and right, and arch my back and not engage my TA, right? And you can kind of cheat that way. So with one leg up, it's really easy to cheat. So, but with one leg up, you have like a weight to counterbalance you, right? There's like a weight to counterbalance you, but you really want to be disciplined and like not. Okay, right, so like I got like a second of floating, which is again, first time ever. And I don't know how to fall out of it. That would not be the way to fall out of it. Right, so like with one-legged, you can balance and not like go hardcore with your transverse. So there's again a balance between training the muscle for that low TA, which is with like two-legged L stand, and then also getting awareness of balance in space. If you do one-legged L stand, right? Like, so it doesn't force the discipline, but like if you go back and forth between the two, you will progress, right? To like where I'm at right now, which is two-legged L stand, I can slow my descent down more than I could, a few months ago. And for the first time, I balanced in one-legged L stand for a second, that's new. And it was scary and different. But I knew that like my core wasn't as engaged as in the two-legged L stand. So go ahead and play around with that. Your transverse is on. It is really, really, really on. And I'm curious to hear if anyone is sore tomorrow, because I was like sore Monday after my Monday class with Jonathan. I was sore for like 2 days. It was like, oh my God, I didn't know I didn't know that like that's the TA. Is that what you're talking about? Oh, because I've never been that sore in that very specific muscle, right? I've been sore like, my core has been sore, but like not to that intensity, but I can definitely feel it working. Right, so find your L stand. And remember, your head has to go closer to the wall and your hips have to go away from it in order to find balance. That's the hard part. So Charlie, your shoulders are way forward compared to your hips. So I would recommend, if it's possible for you to walk your hands like 3 inches closer, 3 to 6 inches closer to the wall and see. And I know it's going to feel like, wait, what? I feel like I'm going to fall over, but that's balanced. I mean, that's alignment. That's alignment. Look, that was better. That looks better. That looks better. Anjali, you look so stacked. That looks really like your hips are over your shoulders. It looks so good. Charlie, if you want to take a look at Anjali, look at that. She's like, do you see her alignment? Do you see that? Her hips are like right over her shoulders. That looks so good. Now point your toe and see if you can get some balance. It's okay. Point your toe, squeeze your core, squeeze your transverse. Point your toe. And maybe if you want to try it again, you want to move your hands like 2 inches forward, but you look so balanced. Like you, Charlie, do you see that? You guys see that? That she's like straight, like probably better than my like alignment. Like your hips are right over your shoulders. To get the balance, remember your hips have to surpass your shoulders. Let me see if I can find an image floating. Images. Oh, here we go. That's not what I wanted. So do you see this? I mean, he's a little bit even surpassed, but what I want is like for the hips are way past the shoulders, right? Like it's not even stacked, like, right? So stacked would be right here with his hips would be right here, right? But his hips are past it. Because that's the only way it works for physics, like physics wise, right? Because if your feet are out here, it's not strength. You cannot I mean, you can, but it would be much harder to muscle your way to this balance than really this is balance, because you have the hips past your fulcrum, right? And the balance is the weight of your legs. Because otherwise, like, I think this is turned at an angle, but like you can kind of see, right? Like this is hands, and you can see the head is past the hands and the hips are aligned and like really past it, because then that balances the feet. Okay. So, okay. All right. Now that you have your transverse, crow. Just try crow. Don't think about it, but just think about all we've done today, which is just engage the transverse abdominis and just go into crow. Go like really high into crow, like your knees like super into your armpits. Because your transverse is more engaged, because your transverse is on and you have more awareness of that, I found that getting my knees into my armpits was like, oh, well, yeah, of course. So my crow was like way more stable than it's ever been. Way more stable than it's ever been. Way more stable to hold one knee crow. I don't know about you, but like just way more stable, right? Like sometimes like yeah, I can hold crow before and like it would be a little wobbly and I'd have to, get my balance and then try not to lose it and then lose it and then try again. It felt like calmer waters, right? Like it just felt more stable. Like the shelf was more stable. So I could roll forward into it. You can try one knee crow. My right side, I can lift my right knee off. My left side, my left side, I can feel like I'm muscling it, which is why I'm falling out of it, which means I have to go more forward. Oh. Okay, now the other way to train for pike is while you're here, you keep doing your crow. The other way to train for pike, that TA, right, is if you have a bolster or a pillow or something cushiony. Because what I'll do is, to get to that feeling of where your hips are past your hands, it's a really scary feeling. And like, if you don't have balance, you're just going to fall over. So what you can do is, this is kind of like the training wheels. You can kind of put your hands back and then your hips will rest on the bolster. So then you're in the right alignment, but like your hips are resting on the bolster, right? So like, you have to find, to train that muscle in all kinds of different ways is, right, so now my hips are past my hands, and then now I can train keeping my tailbone peeling it towards the wall while I lower down, so that I can train the muscle, right, and strengthen that, right? So between hands facing wall and hands facing away from the wall, those are the two ways to get at, finding, your TA muscle. Okay. Have we had enough fun? Is that hard enough? That yes? No? You good? Still alive? Okay. All right, well, let's take it down to just kind of seated folds. Let's do pigeon. Let's get ourselves into pigeon. So just coming onto all fours, our right knee, and find extending left leg out long, scooting that left leg back, pressing down onto our shin bones. That elevates us, and then just coming down. And swinging your left foot around, we're going to do head to knee pose. Now you've got this upgraded TA, right? So anterior pelvic tilt, aiming for the outside of the right pinky toe. You'll be able to get more of an anterior pelvic tilt. And notice if you're able to actually get deeper. I noticed that I was able to get like, it felt like a couple millimeters deeper just by, finding how to turn on my TA more. Like I feel like I can get more of my rib cage down onto my thigh bone. Now we didn't work on this, our back, right? So the restriction I feel today is that, oh wow, my back on my low back is tight, which is I can't get as deep, but I'm deeper on this side because I feel like, wow, my TA is really on and it's able to do a better anterior pelvic tilt and shining the heart forward. I felt I was able to get like just, it was just like, it's just more room. So we'll go switch pigeon on the other side. And after all this work this week, I was able to float into pincha, like and hold pincha for a whole lot longer than I've ever done before. So after class, if you want to try at pincha or even handstand, actually handstand was pretty, actually maybe we'll do that. We'll do handstand because it was like the balance was just like, it just felt so more solid. You know, that whole using your core thing that everyone's been telling you for the past like 15, 20 years, like use your core. Like, what do you mean use my core? Oh, you mean that core? Yeah, that one. We just peel in the onions. We just peel in the layer. So inhale, come on up, press the shin bones down and lift. Lift to open and then come on down. Pull down. So again, we didn't work on this, what is this, the piriformis or the external rotation. I'm gonna have a seat, swing your right leg forward. We'll do head to knee pose, anterior pelvic tilt. Aim for the outside of the right pinky toe. Really find your TA. Right, you can really pull it back as you send your heart forward. So the hip is pulling back, your TA is pulling back. And release. Oh, where are we? Okay. Let us do handstand and then we'll take it down and just kind of take it like down. Because I do want you to try handstand with like your newfound transverse abdominis because I mean, it was magical for me. It maybe or maybe not is not magical for you in terms of like the lightness, but it's like, don't think, just do. Don't think, just do. Because your body already knows what to do. Look at that, Uday, 2-footed jump right into handstand. Who would have thunk? Anjali, your handstand looks awesome. You're just like, up I go, no problem. And Charlie's just hanging out. Looks so good. Can you still find that same, like when we started class with our hips on the block and our feet were hovering, we were pushing our feet on the springs, but also engaging through our core. Looks so good, Anjali. Right? Like you've been doing it forever. Right? No problem. Just kick myself up. Awesome. All right, let's come on down. Time for nap. Ugh. Wheel time. Bridge pose. So we did a lot of like crunching and pulling back. So we have to like open up. We have to actually stretch the, oh, I know what'd be good. If you have your block, we'll do bow pose on the block. We did a lot of crunching. So you do assisted bow. You can use a cushion. You can use a bolster right here, right? You can use a, or you can use a block, whichever doesn't feel terrible. You know, so you put the block right below your rib cage. And you can do bow pose. And the block assistant helps you get yourself a little higher. And it helps you kind of massage into the rectus, right? It kind of helps you open it. Kicking the feet into the hand, posterior pelvic tilt. If that doesn't feel good, you know, use a pillow or don't use a pillow or just do regular bow pose. Ugh. Every Saturday morning, I'm like, what am I going to teach? What should I teach? Oh. And then afterwards, I'm like, oh, that feels so good. Why don't I do this every day? And then Sunday comes around and I'm like, oh, what yoga class should I do? Right? You never regret. You never regret like working out. It's always hard to work out, but you never regret working out. So I can't remember where I read that once. I was like, oh, that's so true. All right, come onto your back. So bridge pose, wheel pose, whatever back bendy, open heart position you want to do. I really love my yoga wheel. It helps me with my, like being at the computer and being at the desk all day. It just feels really good to walk the hands down the wheel and just drop my hips down and just open up. Oh. And then for my wheel, on my wheel, I can actually lift up into wheel and get deeper in wheel. Go ahead and come on down, extend the legs out long. Toss the arms overhead, give yourself a nice big stretch. If you feel like you need to take a twist, which I forgot to do, you can. So maybe if you want to do windshield wiper your knees left and right, you can. But make sure you go slow. No more contraction of the TA. You've done all of your work for contracting of the TA. And just allow your TAs to release. And slowly roll over to your right side, pressing yourself up to seated.
I have some bad news.
What's wrong?
Kai Kai's sick.
What?
Well, he's coughing, and every time
Can you come near me then?
Mom,
Yeah.
every time he sneezes, like mucus coming out of his nose.
Okay. Well, how about you stay away from me so mommy doesn't get sick?
Turn the heater on.
Okay, I need you to leave now.
Please turn the heater on.
Okay. Rudy, you're sipping into the
I
air.
mean, the cord. Turn that thing off.
I did turn it off. Namaste. What?
Turn that thing off.
It's not on, honey.